YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for BoonBoomger episode 43. I apologize, I'm a bit late on this one, but this was the conclusion of the Zordbuilder trilogy as we have these random crossovers with other Sentais, which we found out was basically to advertise Sentai's version of Zordbuilder. When it started, it seemed like it was just kind of the dumb, like, they're both vehicles, so they have to team up type of thing, and I think somebody came up with some sort of anniversary reason for Tokyuger or Goonger. Maybe I'm imagining that. I know sometimes there's like weird forced anniversary milestones, but that's what we thought. It was like, okay, they're vehicle series, and then Gokaiger. I mean, I know Gokaiger's mecha is technically built up of vehicles, but once we learned about that new Sentai Robo line, it became clear that it's to advertise that, which I find simultaneously very frustrating and hilarious. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but that's why we randomly have Joe showing up in this episode. But it was definitely the best episode in the last handful, as we had some big developments happening, and it seems like we might finally be getting some good momentum going into the final arc, because we're in the last lap, and things were like gearing up to get serious going from lap 3 to 4, and then we just kind of stalled to this filler period, so it was nice to kick things up again. It did make things feel a little bit sudden, like it's been a week and maybe I'm misremembering, but I wish there was a little bit more build-up in like these recent episodes to Blue's betrayal. Like, I know that there's been some stuff with him in the ISA, and it feels a little strange because we briefly did something else where it seemed like there was going to be a betrayal arc, but then he was transparent with Taya, so it seems like a hat on a hat a little bit, but it did make things interesting. I'll admit I don't have any like suspense about it because we know they're all going to be kumbaya friendship braceleting by the end. I think it would be refreshing and kind of crazy for one Sentai, not this one probably, but in the history of the future. That doesn't make sense. The history of the future, that's not even how time works. But you know what I mean. In the future, Phil of the future, he's a 22nd century man. Anyway, I'm getting lost. In the future, I would love to see a Sentai series where you had a character like that where maybe all the time there was some suspicion, and then they actually stick to the betrayal. Like, that would be really cool, because we know it's not going to stick, but still, it made for an effective moment because he's effectively meant to give up his morpher to the monster of the week because he eats treasures or whatever, which is very quickly undone, but it's a symbolic gesture for him being on the inside of the ISA, and I guess the ISA's motivation, which we couldn't figure out, was basically they feel like they have no chance winning against the Hash Aliens and just want to be on the winning side. I've seen this plot in a couple other things before, but I don't know why, but for whatever reason, my mind went straight to, I think it was Kamen Rider Strike, the one that was Oja and Dragon Knight, who basically joined with Xaviax because he's like, yeah, that's the winning team, I don't want to be on the losing side, I want to survive. And that's kind of the motivation, and that's the motivation that he states to the BoonBoomgers. He's like, disband, you're going to be on the wrong side of history effectively, you know, you're going to be against the rulers of the world. And it's a really nice scene though in terms of like Taya being like, I don't care as long as I'm taking my own wheel. And it was a really badass scene, and I really liked that. And it did tie into like why Joe would be impressed by that, because it was a very Marvelous-esque thing to say. And I did like those scenes. He did pull out an actual gun, so those Sentai edgelords are going to be high on that. You know, you show them a beer in the corner, a gun, a little blood on the lip, and you know, they're like, oh my god, this is so mature, I'm so cool for watching this. It was a nice scene, even though I have like no illusions about this sticking as a betrayal. But then you have Joe showing up randomly to transform and fight, and probably, even though I don't like this crossover content, the best scene in the whole series is him showing up with the Gokaiger music, that signature Gokaiger instrumental riff, because that's one of my favorite Sentai tracks, so any scene with that is automatically the best scene. If the series finale of BoonBoomger ends with a scene of them all eating curry and this music starts playing, that's the best scene in the series. And it's funny because when he first shows up, they all fight together, and it's a good little fight, but it felt very traditional. I was thinking, this feels like a good solid Sentai fight, but it doesn't feel like the usual fanfare we get from a BoonBoomger fight. And then like 2 seconds later, when he does the Gokai change into Boom Blue, he does like a signature BoonBoomger fight, a really awesome, memorable, acrobatic fight scene, and he dual wields the swords of orange and black, which was really cool because that's part of Joe's fighting style. That was really neat. I really liked that. There was a moment where Red and him are back-to-back, or Taya and him, and he's like, have we met before? I don't know what that's a reference to. Did the actors work together before? Is it a random line? Was there another pointless crossover somewhere where they met? I don't know what that was about. I was actually kind of disappointed because I thought what they were doing with the change, the Gokai change, was that since our Blue was gone, he was going to take his place for that, and like he was going to be in the mecha, and I thought that would have been kind of cool. I actually kind of would have dug that because there's like no nostalgia behind him transforming into the current Sentai. Like, oh man, he transformed into Boom Blue. I haven't seen him in 15 seconds. So I thought that would have been a cool spin on like why he's transforming into literally the most modern Sentai you can transform into, outside of Gokaiger, obviously. That would have been a crazy way to introduce Gokaiger as a teaser if he had transformed into one of them. Anyway, but I thought that would have been cool if he took basically the place of the Blue Ranger and like piloted the mecha and stuff. And then we do the dumb, like, here's promoting the Zordbuilder line, and that's what basically, honestly, Sakito's character has become. He's just, hey, my Zord does promotions now, and that's what we get. And then he does deliver a necklace, and he's like, this is from Princess Pee-Pee or whatever, and I'm like, who the hell is this now? Who the hell is this now? And I'm like, did I forget something? Is this from Gokaiger and I'm forgetting it because I haven't watched it in a million years? But it seems like it's from the movie, which I think is available to watch now, but I have not watched it yet. But they do explain it from scenes, because I'm like, either this is from the movie or I've completely like lost my memory of this episode, but I'm like 99% sure it's from the movie. So it did have a point, you know, to a degree, but at the same time, it's like, this did not need to be here. This was so random, even though it was fun. And basically, it's driving the point home in this episode, too, like how much the Hash aliens control. Like, Sakito shows up and he's like, they control the race, they control the police. It's like a whole Kingpin situation, but like, it's not even a fair comparison. Kingpin is so much cooler. But yeah, it was still a good episode. Like I said, glad they're bringing momentum forward. Joe's appearance was fun, but I'll admit the reasoning for these appearances just takes me out of it. I know Toku is meant to sell toys, but this is like some of the most obvious. I might do like an overall rant about that and about the crossovers and the absolute absurdity of Sentai and Riders' shared universe where they're constantly in the same world and not at the same time. Like it was recently as Zenkaiger where they're like, they all got kidnapped from their own worlds. It drives me up a wall because it has potential to be a really cool shared multiverse, and instead it's done with just the absolute most haste. But anyway, I might just do one rant video about that and get it all out of my system so I can be less of a buzzkill during Gojuger. But the fact that this is to advertise a Sentai Legacy line just takes me out of it, and I feel like, obviously Sentai and Rider has always been meant to sell toys, but it's gotten so unsubtle over time. I feel like for the longest period of time, it was like, yeah, when they introduced a new Zord or a bike or a weapon, they're trying to sell the toy, but it also felt like a mutual relationship where it still felt naturally a part of the show. And then as we started doing gimmicks and legend stuff, it became more and more obvious. It felt less organic to the flow of the story. And then with stuff like this, it really just takes me completely out of it. I wish they could have done it in a different way. Like, I'm sure it boosts the sales, but it's like there's so many other toy lines like that have variants or legacy items, and they don't feel the need to force that into the movie or show. Like, you don't see... Like in the Batman animated series, unless I'm misremembering it, they didn't have the 15,000 variants of that figure in that show. I know it's kind of a different example, but you know what I mean. Especially since we're literally one season away from yet another anniversary season. As I said in the past, I hate that every season since Zenkaiger has had unnecessary legacy content. It makes me feel like I never left the anniversary room. I feel like I'm in a horror movie where I've been trapped in the anniversary room the whole time. But setting that aside, I'm like, why didn't you wait to do this Zordbuilder line till next year? That would have been the perfect time, because there could have been so many ways to advertise past Sentai Robos, whether you shoehorn it into the show or into a commercial or whatever. Like, it would make so much more sense, and it gives you so much more of an organic reason to be promoting old mecha than just shoving it in here randomly, even though the Joe appearance was enjoyable, and it was an overall fun and enjoyable episode, and I hope we keep this momentum. They kept saying the phrase pedal to the metal, and it was like a pun at one point with like flower petals, but I hope that's the way it is for these last handful of episodes so we can have an enjoyable conclusion. But let me know what you guys thought of the episode. As always, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.